Firstly, I'd like to apologise for the delay in starting this planning meeting this afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. But furthermore, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's planning meeting. Also to those members of the press and the public who are joining us via the live stream. Before we begin, please can I take this opportunity to remind everyone to turn their mobiles and computers to silent and ensure when using the microphones the red light is on and then turned off when you've finished speaking. We'll now go to agenda item number 1, and I'd like to ask member services if we've had any apologies for absence, and it's Elaine this afternoon. Thank you.
No apologies for absence. Everybody's present.
Agenda item 2 is to confirm and sign the minutes from the meeting of the 24th of June 2026. Have I got a proposer on that, please? I'm looking for Councillor French. Anybody wants to second that? Councillor Mifferton, can I have a show of hands for the record? Okay, that has been approved. Minutes have been approved. Number 3 is urgent items, and there is one today. So I'm aware of members of the public have raised concerns that there are a number of applications pending decision that may need to come before planning committee. I would like to deal with this matter at the end of the committee in item number 11. Thank you. So 4 is declarations of interest. Member services will now go each councillor in turn. And can you please state if you've anything to declare in relation to any agenda item on this afternoon's agenda? Thank you.
Councillor Benny.
Thank you, Elaine. As always, let's declare that I know Matthew Hall from Morton Hall. He's done work for me previously. He isn't at the moment, and I've also worked with him as a councillor on council projects. I've been lobbied on item 8, but I've made no comment on that. And a little bit of a distant thing, but I will declare it just for transparency. Item 9 and 10. I knew the applicant's father. He was a couple of years younger than me at school. I don't drink with him. I don't socialise with him. Haven't seen him for a long time. But just for transparency, I will make that known to everybody. Other than that, I'm fine today. Thank you.
Councillor Connor.
Yes, thank you. I've been lobbied by email on agenda item number 7 and number 8. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs French.
Thank you. Member of March Town Council but take no part. Member of several drainage boards and been lobbied on item 8, which I haven't responded to.
Councillor Gerstner.
Thank you. I'm a member of Watersea Town Council. I occasionally go to their planning meetings, but I take no part in it. I have had an email regarding item number 8, and this week I had a meeting with Mr. Matthew Hall, who's present here, and I got an application in, but it was nothing to do with this application. It was to do with the project that we may move forward with Watersea Town Council. Thank you.
Councillor Maffedon.
Thank you. I'm a member of Wisbech Town Council, but I'm not a member of the planning committee there, and I do not attend. I know Matthew Hall on a business level, and also I received an email on agenda item number 8. Thank you.
Councillor Marks.
Thank you. I'm a member of Mainey Parish Council, and also I attend, although not a member, Chapters Town Council. In both, I either leave the room or take no part in planning. On item 7, I have been lobbied, and also I met the applicant for the first time at Mainey Gala on the Mainey Parish Council stand. We didn't discuss anything regarding this planning application. It was purely regarding the village plan going forward. So I don't socialise with him at all, and I have been lobbied on item, I think it's number 8, regarding the roller shutters, and items 9 and 10. The Savage family are known to me. I know that the father, the same as Councillor Benny. However, I have met the applicant as well, but again, do not socialise with them.
Councillor Purser.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm a member of March Town Council, but I don't take any part in any planning applications at all. Matthew Hall has done work for me previously, but we don't socialise at all. Craig Brown has been known to me for many, many years, but we don't socialise, haven't seen him for a long, long time. One of the applicants, Mr. Peter Holiday, was an old family friend from yesteryear, but haven't seen him for many, many years, so we don't socialise at all. I'm also a member of March East Internal Drainage Board. And I've also been lobbied on items 7 and 8, but haven't read them, so I'm not at all predetermined. Thank you.
You can, Stephen, after I've done mine.
So,
Sorry about that. Sorry, Elaine. I've forgotten to miss out. I knew the applicant on 8 and 9 and 10, Mr. Savage, from many years ago. I haven't spoken to him in the last 40 years, but just for clarification and openness, that's all basically. So now I'm going to bring in Steve, now legal executive.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify that items 9 and 10 are part heard applications. So members who were not present when they were first discussed cannot take part in the discussion today. And those two members, I think, are Councillor Imafidon and Councillor Gersner. So you will not take part in that discussion. Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot to add that I'm also a member of Drainage Board, 100 Wisbech. Thank you.
We can just add Stephen's very relevant comments and obviously Councillor Mifidon's extra declarations. Thank you. So we'll now go to the main part of the meeting. Members should only make a proposal on a planning application when invited to do so. However, I'll be initially asking if anybody's going to propose the officer's recommendation. Clearly, if no proposal is forthcoming or that proposal fails, I'll be then looking for an alternative proposal. Members are reminded that such a proposal should be accompanied by the planning policy reasons for going against the officer recommendation. We all know that by now, I'm certain. Now we'll hand over to Hayley Parker-Haynes. She's the Senior Development Officer here at Fenland to present agenda item number 5, F/YR 260043F. So when you're ready, Hayley, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. This application seeks full planning permission for a self-build dwelling on plot 4 of the wider development on land south of Field View, previously approved under the terms of application FYR 220890F. This is the location plan and aerial photograph of the site. This is the site plan. So you've got Birch Lodge at the top of the image, and our site today is opposite this. The proposed elevations of the dwelling, proposed floor plans, garage elevations and floor plan. Concerns were raised by local residents regarding the impact of the proposal on neighbouring properties' amenity. During the determination of the application, a shadow assessment was provided, which is shown here. The top shows the elevation relationship between both the proposed dwelling and the proposed garage in the neighbouring property, with the plans below showing the shadows cast at various timeframes throughout the day. These show that generally the ridge shadows project no further than the shadow currently cast by the existing boundary treatment at this neighbouring property. This is a comparison of the previous scheme that was granted on this plot under the terms of 220890 and the current scheme, and some site photographs. The principle of development has already been established through the extant planning permission. The proposed amendments relate primarily to the design of the dwelling and are considered acceptable in terms of scale, appearance and impact on the character of the area and neighbouring amenity. Highway improvements and the self-build requirement are secured through planning conditions and the completed unilateral undertaking. Overall, the proposal accords with the relevant policies of the Fenland Local Plan, the March Neighbourhood Plan and the National Planning Policy Framework, and is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Hayley. We have 2 speakers on this application. First, I'd like to ask Keith Radford. He's an objector to make his presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes. When you're nicely seated and ready to start, please feel able to do so, or free to do so. Thank you. And also, when you finish speaking, can you turn it off or questions one way or another. It's a bit difficult, but you know, when you're speaking, there should be no way that they aren't, and obviously when you are speaking, there should be.
It will be difficult for me. Just give me a minute, please, to sort myself out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no pressure. Make your presentation when you feel able to do so.
Thank you, that's kind. I'm not making phone calls, it's a stopwatch. Okay. Can I start with one? Okay. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Keith Radford, and together with my wife Barbara, we live at Birch Lodge, the property next to plot 4. Our concern is that 2 elements of this proposal would each have an unacceptable impact on Birch Lodge, and taken together, that impact would be even greater. The first element is the proposed dwelling. At 9.4 metres high and only 8 metres, or 2 car lengths, from our home, it would have an overbearing and dominating effect. Instead of looking towards light and sky, from our already restricted lounge side windows, our outlook would be one of brickwork. The planning report dismisses the amenity value of those windows. We refute this. The secondary windows are important to us for outlook and light, and we don't know how one would assess amenity without using the room. We do not believe sufficient weight or consideration has been given to the effect that a building of this height and proximity would have on our residential amenity. FDC's LP16, the Delivering and Protecting High Quality Environments SPD, and paragraph 135 of the National Planning Policy Framework give clear instruction and guidance on this, and we don't believe they have been sufficiently applied. The second element is the proposed garage and office. The garage report describes it as typical of large detached garages. Respectfully, I ask members to remember that it's actually a 2-storey building with a garage at ground level and an office above. It would stand over 6 metres high, that's around 20 feet, and nearly 9 metres long, or 28 feet, and only 1.5 metres from our boundary. The plans do not convey its true impact. In reality, its height, bulk and proximity would create an overbearing and oppressive presence and a dominant feature beside our home, severely affecting the amenity and enjoyment of our garden and the outlook from both our garden and our master bedroom. From our garden, for much of the time, we will see little more than a 6 by 9 metre wall of brick and tile. We all expect to see neighbouring buildings, but we do not expect to be dominated by a building of this scale positioned so close to our boundary. The planning report concludes that the proposed garage is subordinate to the proposed dwelling. That may well be true, but it is a different question. The question before members today is whether a building of this height, scale and proximity is acceptable for the people who already live at Birch Lodge. We respectfully do not believe that Birch Lodge has been given sufficient priority or due consideration in respect of the policies mentioned earlier. Each of these proposed buildings raises serious concerns in its own right. Taken together, their combined effect on our home would be even more harmful, fundamentally changing the character of our house and garden and the way we are able to enjoy them. Our quality of life would be significantly diminished in order to enhance that of the new development. I therefore ask members to consider one simple question. Do these buildings individually or together strike a fair balance between the applicant's aspirations and the rights of the people who already live next door? We respectfully suggest they do not. There are practical alternatives, such as moving the proposed house back, build a conventional single-storey garage, with the office relocated to the empty far side of this generous plot, adjoining open countryside. This would have the added benefit of relieving the design congestion of our shared boundary, giving us back our outlook instead of sacrificing it for the new development, and thus ensuring fairness and equity for both. For all these reasons, we respectfully ask the committee to refuse this application and invite a revised proposal that better protects the amenity of Birch Lodge while still allowing appropriate development of the site. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Radford. Now I'd like to invite members to put questions. Thank you, Mr. Radford. The members' questions, clarifications to Mr. Radford. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Radford. At the start, you mentioned a 2 metres from window. Sorry, at the start of your presentation, can you tell me?
I said 1.5 metres from the boundary.
From the back. Oh,
We need to obviously. No worries.
I said 1.5 metres from the boundary.
the windows for the office or the windows for the house?
It's the brickwork of the garage to our boundary.
To your boundary and not to your windows?
Not to my windows.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else at all? Got any questions for Mr. Radford? No, I'm looking fervently for anybody. Nope, thank you very much.
Can I mention one thing in relation to what you just asked me?
Absolutely.
Thank you. The fact that you've got the footpath between windows and boundary makes little difference to the overpowering nature of that garage. It's a 2-storey building, and it does severely affect the light and outlook from those side windows in the lounge, which are important, as well as the amenity of the garden. It really is a bad one. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll ask again, anybody else got any questions at all? Councillor Mifford, and you have one. Thank you.
Just a very quick question. How long have you lived at your property, please?
We've lived there for about 5 years. We used to live down here about 20 years ago, and when I left the ambulance service, we moved north to look after ageing relatives, and then moved back during the COVID crisis. And we took this house. It wasn't built for us. We finished it with no choice. We had to find something to be closer to younger family here because age and so on.
Did you want to come back, Councillor Mifford, or have you finished? No, that's fine. Anybody else at all before we let Mr. No, thank you very much. Thank you. So I'd now like to invite Craig Brand, he's the agent, to make his presentation to the committee. You've also got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the applicants who cannot be with us today, but will be watching on YouTube in Spain. I would like to thank Hayley for her detailed report following taking over the application from the previous planning officer and for the presentation to you today. The proposed dwelling's footprint is only 2.5% larger than the 2022 application's design, and is set slightly further away from Birch Lodge at 9 metres, not 8 metres, as Mr. Radford just quoted. The dwelling is 1 foot taller than the three-storey dwelling approved on plot 3, to which no objection was made, and roughly 18 inches taller than Birch Lodge. Positioned at 45 degrees to Birch Lodge means that there is no direct square looking into Birch Lodge's small side elevation secondary lounge windows and first floor bathroom windows from the proposed dwelling's windows, which are over 10 metres away. A sun shading analysis carried out showed that Birch Lodge's private rear amenity area was not shaded by the proposed dwelling, only part of the front garden in the early morning. The three-storey dwelling has no detrimental impact on the amenities of Birch Lodge. The double garage with home office in the roof space is positioned 20 foot from the proposed new dwelling and set parallel to the northern boundary and 12 foot behind the rear elevation of Birch Lodge. Mr. Radford quoted that it is 1.5 metres from the boundary, but to his private rear amenity garden fence, there's an additional 2.5 metres of the public footpath which runs from Mill Hill Lane to Knights End Road. The ridge height of the garage does not cast a shadow over the actual private garden and after 10 a.m. at the start of British summertime. No roof windows are incorporated in the roof tiling overlooking Birch Lodge's garden. The home office window in the gable faces down the driveway and the proposed three-storey dwelling. Admittedly, the garage roof is going to be visible from Birch Lodge, but plan policy LP16 does not preclude a new dwelling altering the view from an existing property. I would therefore, on behalf of the applicants, ask you to support your officer's recommendation of approval.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Brand. Members, questions? You've got one, Councillor French, thank you.
Thank you. I've got three. Mr. Brand, the Town Council are concerned about the storm water ditch. Have you consulted the drainage boards?
Yes. Yes, we've been in contact with the drainage boards throughout the process before making the applications.
Thank you. The update that we've received, do you believe that that actual update giving different measurements actually helps to alleviate Mr. Bradford's concerns?
I haven't seen the update myself personally, but when I read the report, I did contact Hayley with the discrepancies from the drawings, i.e. that indicate 8 metres instead of 9 metres separation between the two properties. I also pointed out that the 4.85 was the width of the garage door, not the actual width of the overall garage, and the depth was 8.65 metres rather than 6.29 metres, which was the measurement along the side elevation to the toilet window, there being a 3 foot window and another pier.
Thank you. I'll ask the officers, they can probably answer that. And the other, it's not a question, but I'm just amazed. Having been on this council 27 years, I have never seen one single application have 59 letters, so many in, I think it's 27 letters of objection and 32 letters of support. I mean, I don't know what you've been up to.
It's not me, Councillor French, it's my applicants. And the objectors have friends.
Good answer, Mr. Brand. Well done. Any more questions for Mr. Brand? No? Okay, thank you very much. Well, members, questions to officers. And you have one, Councillor French. Thank you.
I will ask the question to officers, which Mr. Brand couldn't answer.
Carry on, please.
Through you, Chair. So this was in regards to the members' update and the assessment on neighbouring amenity. The officer's assessment doesn't materially change as a result of the amended measurements, but obviously the setback by a metre could, I wouldn't want to speak on the neighbour's behalf, alleviate concerns.
Right, thank you. Anybody else got any more questions to officers? No. 3, 2, 1. No. Okay. So now I'd like to invite members to debate the item with respect to the material planning considerations relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. So we're in debate Councillor French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I know the site exceptionally well. I mean, several years ago there was only 2 houses down there. Over the years, it's crept and crept. Now I've lost count how many's down there now. It's just an ongoing. My only concern is the state of the actual road. It has got a public right of way. As I say, I have never known in all these years to have so many letters for one single dwelling. We don't get that for major developments. I'm just amazed.
Okay. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. I feel it's a bit like here we go again regarding ridge heights of buildings and stuff. I know previously we've had them in Doddington and Wimbledon where we've driven along. When the property is built, quite honestly, you can't tell whether there's 1 foot, 2 foot, or 3 foot taller as the buildings stand. Yes, I hear what the objector is saying regarding shadowing and stuff, but it does sound like it's in the early morning where the shadowing would take place, not during the day. Everybody has a quality of living, but there is a footpath between the 2 buildings as well. I think the officer on this occasion has got it right, and I'm very happy to sit here and go with the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, I'd just like to. No, nobody else is going to speak, so I'd just like to.
Councillor French.
Oh, Councillor French.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I know it's nothing really to do with the committee, but I'm just amazed the amount of people who are objecting to this and don't live anywhere near this. I mean, Kings Lane, Oakington, Cherry Hinton, Ely, Biggleswade. I mean, I just don't know what's going on with this applicant. We're supposed to take into consideration the ward or neighbouring wards. These are like 50 miles away. Not sure what they're objecting to.
Yeah, absolutely, and they can't be in the equation because it's not the adjoining ward or the ward. So, Councillor Marks, thank you.
I think just to go with Councillor French's comment, we saw the same in Maney, where we had an application there that we had letters from London and all over the place. Yeah, I understand locals' concerns. We all have concerns. We live locally, but when it's further afield, I think they certainly need discounting.
I'd just like to make a comment about the road, really. I know Mill Hill Lane extremely well, and that road is not very good, and that's on the public highway. But when you get down further than that, it's an adopted road, and the road is to say it's not good would be a total understatement. So maybe, and it's not a planning material consideration for this committee, but someone ought to take the lead and get this road made up, even if we have to do it if they have to do it by a management company or one thing or another, because it's not good. But Councillor French.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Every time there's a planning application for this road, we have the same concerns. It is unadopted. The neighbours will not get together. So I think it's a case of, if you're going to buy a house there, buyer beware.
Absolutely. The last 3 times I've seen an application with this committee has made that sort of a comment exactly like that. And every time somebody says, yeah, well, it'll be different this time, but of course it isn't. But we are where we are. Anyway, so have we all finished? Yep. Okay. So anybody else would like to add to the debate before I close it? And I'm closing it. So members, questions to officers at all? None. Okay. So with that, do I have a proposal to go with officer recommendation to grant planning permission for this? Councillor Marks has put his hand up proposing it. Who's going to second it? Councillor Mifferton. So we've got a proposal to go with officer recommendation to approve this application. Councillor Marks is proposing it. Councillor Mifferton is seconding it. Can I have a show of hands on that? That application has been approved then. Thank you. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Kimberly Crowe. She's a development officer here at Fenland also, to present agenda item number 6, FYR 260147, agenda number 6. So Kimberly, when you're ready, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So agenda item 6 is an outline application for the erection of 2 dwellings with all matters reserved at land south of 85 to 95 Knights End Road in March. I would like to draw members' attention to the update report that was circulated yesterday. So the application site is shown edged red in the location plan and aerial photograph. The site is situated to the rear of existing dwellings along Knights End Road in a parcel of open and undeveloped land. The eastern boundary of the site is densely landscaped and covered by a tree preservation order. So an indicative site plan is shown on the screen. Whilst all matters are reserved, the site plan is considered likely to be broadly in line with any subsequent reserved matters application. This layout would not reflect the urban grain or pattern of development and would create a form of development that would be more akin to backland development, resulting in urbanisation and encroachment into the existing rural character. Whilst visually associated to a small degree with the existing dwellings to the north-east, the land is experienced as part of the wider countryside setting of Linwood Lane. Some site photographs on screen. So the top left photo is taken from Knights End Road looking down Linwood Lane. The top right photo is further into Linwood Lane looking towards the site on the right. The bottom left photo shows the eastern boundary of the application site on the right, and the bottom right photo is looking back towards Knights End Road. So the site reflects an open and undeveloped parcel of land to the south of the existing built form along Knights End Road. The site as it stands contributes to the visual quality and openness of the area. The development proposed would result in a detriment to the character and visual amenity of the area, contrary to the March Neighbourhood Plan and the Fenland Local Plan. Furthermore, the information submitted with the application suggests that all existing trees and hedgerow along Linwood Lane would need to be removed. Insufficient detail has been submitted to demonstrate that these significant habitat losses could be avoided, mitigated or compensated for. The application is therefore recommended for refusal.
Yep, thank you very much. Kimberly, excellent. We've got 2 speakers on this application. Firstly, I'd like to ask Ben Tickner, an objector, to make his presentation to committee. You have got 5 minutes, no pressure. Start when you feel comfortable enough to do so.
Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Tickner. I'm a resident of Knights End Road. I thank the council for the opportunity to speak. I do so in opposition on behalf of a few Knights End Road residents and addresses. Many neighbours on the consultation list have not received letters notifying them of this proposal, and others are not on the consultation list at all. I and many of my neighbours only found out about this proposal just a few weeks ago. This application to build 2 dwellings on agricultural land south of 85 to 95 Knights End Road should be refused for a few key reasons, many of which are covered in the officer's reasons for refusal. Even at outline stage, it's clearly out of character with existing development. Knights End Road consists of street-facing housing, and this would be backland development behind the building line. The site is currently used for agriculture and has been for many decades. It's used for hay baling and horse grazing, and to convert this into residential would detract from the countryside feel of the area. Any future dwellings would likely be 2-storey, leading to overlooking of surrounding properties, and is inconsistent with the surrounding single-storey existing properties. As new housing would be further south, it could result in a loss of light to existing residents. The Fenland Development Plan in 2014, when discussing this broad area, stated that views of St When Reader's Church should be preserved, but introduction of housing here would block views of the church steeple from my garden and would have a detrimental impact on the character and visual appeal of the area. The proposal reflects piecemeal rather than coordinated development of a larger agricultural site. Residents are concerned about drainage as gardens of nearby properties flood, and the agricultural fields that make up this site have large amounts of surface standing water over winter, a problem that would only be exacerbated by soak-away drainage of new housing nearby. The application has not shown a net gain in biodiversity, and instead indicates significant habitat loss. There are inconsistencies with suggestions that only parts of a boundary hedge will be removed in places where access to new properties is required, but other suggestions that the entire hedge would be lost. It has not been shown that this can be compensated for. While only outline planning, this could and should have been addressed but has not been done so, despite the opportunity to include mitigation. There are also concerns around access via an existing public right-of-way lane. This lane is not tarmacked, in poor condition, and is hardly suitable for further residential users. The council have a responsibility to ensure that future housing is of high quality, but access via a ramshackle lane with no separate pedestrian footpath is not the high-quality living environment of the future. The existing lane is not wide enough for two-way residential vehicle access, farm vehicle access to places further down the lane, and pedestrians. There have been some supporting comments received, but none are from people living near the site. The only comment from someone on the same street was an objection from a direct neighbour. Since today's meeting agenda was put together, the council have received 4 further objections from 3 addresses, all on Knights End Road, that I hope can be included for consideration. I hope that the planning committee places the highest weight on comments from the nearest neighbours, rather than those from residents much further afield, who are likely to be personal friends of the applicants, and an attempt to make the scheme appear to have local support. Finally, I would like to note the similarity with another outline planning application refused by the council 2 years ago. That was for up to 5 dwellings in the residential garden of 129 Knights End Road. That proposal was very similar. Both reflect piecemeal backland development. The council refused that application due to development in an area without a local plan and because it would be out of character. That refusal was upheld by a planning inspector on appeal. The council should be consistent in its decision making. They were absolutely right to agree with officers and refuse that application, and should do the same in this case for the same reasons. Of course, each application must be considered on its own merits. To conclude on the merits of this outline application, it should be refused in line with officers' recommendation. It clearly breaks policy LP16 as is out of character with the local area. It would lead to loss of amenity for existing residents, privacy, noise, light, biodiversity, and would not provide good quality housing for future residents. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Tickner. Members, questions, clarifications? Who wants to go first? Councillor Mifferton, thank you. Then Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Councillor Marks. Thank you for your presentation. So you did your homework. Very impressed. When was the last time the area flooded, and do you have any evidence of it?
So it floods every winter. It has like large amounts of standing surface water, and the north, I don't know if there's a photo, but the north boundary of the whole site. So the back gardens, like of all, yeah. Could you go back to the larger zoomed out one? Yeah, like the northern boundary of the whole red site, and even going further along that, you get sort of surface standing water there. So those people on the south side of Knights End Road, the back of their gardens will flood in the winter because there's no dike or drainage.
Okay, Councillor Marks.
Thank you. Sorry, just for clarity, you made a comment regarding the roadway was unsuitable for vehicles, for cars, but then you mentioned agricultural vehicles and pedestrians. Is there a second access into that?
No, like, yes, you can get a car down it, but it's like the road down Mill Hill. It's, yeah, a car can drive over it, but whether it should do, it's not a good, high quality, like a proper made up road.
But But that does give access to the farm further down, farm vehicles and everything else.
Yes, so it's the same, almost a bit like single lane, single track with car, only width wide enough for one vehicle or a tractor. So all those 3 users would share the same lane almost.
Councillor Mifferton again, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You did say that it's currently being used for horse grazing and farming?
Yes, yes. So they have horses that graze on the site, and a couple of years ago they used to like grow hay in it, cut it, bale it.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Marks again.
Sorry, did I hear that correctly? You have horses that graze on it?
No, the applicant I think, rents the fields to someone that has horses in it, and they bale the hay that grows on it.
Do you happen to know how long that has been left sort of fallow with hay on it?
I didn't hear the end of that. Could you repeat?
Right. How long has it been left, like as being a horse field?
All of my lifetime, so 30 odd years plus.
So apart from hay, it's not actually produced any wheat or anything else crop.
To my knowledge, no crops. No.
Okay, so I suppose we better start with Marchtown Council. They recommend approval. The CC definitive map team, they've got no problem with it. We're satisfied with the byway status and the position as now has been recognised by the drawings, and remove our holding objection. It also goes on to say it's not considered the proposal would give rise to any wider impacts on Knights End Road or the highway network. So highways haven't got a problem with it as well, really. So that's where we are at the moment. So reading off that. Carry on.
Is that a question?
That's a question to you.
Sorry, what was the question? I thought it was a statement.
Well, the question is, I'm all right. I'm just off holiday now. Right. So the question is, Marchtown Council have not got an objection. There's only one objector. We won't talk about the six. The definitive map team at Cambs County Highways, they haven't got a problem with it. Highways haven't got a problem with it. So I suppose we're looking for comments for you.
So regarding to the one objector, like a point I'd made, most local residents had no clue about this application. So you have received other objections since the deadline, since before the meeting pack was put together. The point I would make about highways is just because highways thinks or say something might be a good idea doesn't make it so. My confidence in highways assessment of things is around the ankles.
You may not be alone in that comment, but the byway status they've removed their previous objection. We've got any comment?
No, just because they've removed an objection doesn't mean that they should have removed the objection. Okay, so that's it for me. Didn't learn too much of that, but anyway. Anybody else have got any more before we go? Thank you very much. So now I'd like to ask Shana Penny, the agent, to make her presentation to the committee. You have 5 minutes. So I am back all firing off holiday, aren't I?
Yeah, I thought you'd forgotten about me for a minute.
How could one do so?
Right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in support of this application. I'm here as the agent acting on behalf of the applicant. I'd like to briefly address the two proposed reasons for refusal and explain why we respectfully consider that this application should be approved. Firstly, in relation to character and appearance. This application is for outline planning permission for just 2 dwellings with all matters reserved. The site is located within the settlement of March, which is identified as a primary market town under policy LP3 of the local plan. More importantly, it sits within the broad location for growth as identified by policy LP9. That designation is significant. The broad location for growth is, in effect, a land allocation where the principle of residential development has already been accepted through the development plan. The purpose of the policy is to facilitate the future growth of March, and this proposal represents a contribution towards that planned growth. The committee report concludes that the development would result in urbanisation and encroachment into the rural character of the area. We respectfully disagree. This is not an extension into the open countryside. It is development within the planned growth area of March, where residential development is anticipated by the development plan. Furthermore, when the existing pattern of development is considered, the proposal does not project beyond the established extent of built form. Instead, it mirrors the depth and extent of the development that already exists on the opposite side of Linwood Lane. The application therefore represents a logical and balanced relationship with the surrounding built form, rather than introducing an isolated or intrusive form of development. The proposed dwellings would front Linwood Lane, which is a highway, creating an active frontage. This is not a traditional backland scheme where development is hidden behind existing properties and access from a private drive. The proposed dwellings will address the road in exactly the same way as the surrounding development. In those circumstances, it's difficult to substantiate any objection that this proposal constitutes an acceptable backland development. It should also be noted that the application has been submitted in outline. It would therefore be premature to conclude that the development cannot successfully assimilate into its surroundings or have a negative impact on neighbours, when all of the design matters remain to be secured through the reserve matters process. Turning specifically to Policy H2 of the March Neighbourhood Plan, we consider that the proposal fully complies with these objectives. Policy H2 seeks development that is of a high quality standard. This proposal responds positively to its surroundings, respects local character, and integrates with the existing settlement. The proposal therefore represents a high standard design by reasons of its location. The site was located within the defined growth area for March, fronts an existing highway, mirrors the pattern of residential development already established along Linwood Lane by reflecting the extent of development on the opposite side of the road. It does not create an isolated pocket of development or represent sporadic intrusion. It is also important to note that March Town Council, the body responsible for preparing and owning the neighbourhood plan, has recommended approval for this application. In our submission, that is a significant material consideration. If the body responsible for preparing Policy H2 considers that this proposal is acceptable, it's difficult to conclude that there is any substantiated conflict with the objectives of that policy. The proposal therefore accords with both the spirit and objectives of Policy H2 by providing a logical continuation of the settlement within a sustainable location. Turning briefly to the second proposed reason, which relates to biodiversity net gain, we respectfully consider that this reason is unsubstantiated. The application is accompanied by biodiversity net gain information demonstrating that the mandatory 10% net gain can be achieved on site. The concern raised is simply due to the fact that detailed landscaping has not yet been provided. However, landscaping is a reserved matter. It's entirely normal on an outline application for ecological enhancements, planting and habitat creation to be secured through the reserve matter submission and appropriate planning conditions. There is therefore no technical evidence before members to suggest that the required biodiversity gain cannot be achieved. On the contrary, the submitted information demonstrates that it can. A suitably worded condition requiring the submission and implementation of a biodiversity net gain plan prior to commencement would fully address this matter. In conclusion, members are being asked to determine a proposal for just 2 dwellings on land where the principle of residential development has already been established through its inclusion within the broad location for growth. The proposal does not extend into open countryside. It presents a logical and proportionate addition to the settlement that mirrors the existing pattern of development opposite. It fronts Linwood Lane and complies with the objectives of both the Fenland Local Plan and Policy H2 of the March Town Plan. The biodiversity issue is capable of being fully addressed through the reserve matters process and planning conditions and is entirely appropriate for an outline application. We therefore respectfully ask members to support the application and grant planning permission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to invite members to put questions to Miss Penny. If you would like to do so, please put your hand up, and it's Councillor French and then Councillor Ben.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. 1.4 says insufficient details. So looking at that, this is not a complete application.
Is that in relation to biodiversity? Yeah. So the application is accompanied by biodiversity net gain information, and the metric which is available on the application online shows there's a 10% gain. The issue with biodiversity is that the ecologist is saying that insufficient information has been provided to demonstrate that the works can be achieved. Well, of course, we don't know what those works are going to be because the access and the landscaping isn't yet committed. So what they're essentially asking for is that information up front. And it is within the council's powers to ask for that information within 2 weeks of the application being acknowledged. But we weren't asked for that information. And without knowing exactly what the scheme's going to be at this outline stage, there's no way of doing it. So I would argue it's complete for validation purposes and for what is needed to move forward with the scheme.
Did you want to come back?
Yeah, you mentioned the March neighbourhood plan. I started working on this in 2013 and we completed it, and I can't remember, I think it was November 2017. And we had years of consultation, and this part of the land did not come into any of the consultations. Looking at it, this is clearly backland development. I don't know, looking at the map, how you reckon that's not backland development, I don't know. And under H2, I think you said, I can't see anything that could support this application.
Okay. Councillor Benny, did you indicate that you wanted to speak, did you? Did you want to respond to it?
Backland development. Okay, so Linwood Lane is a byway open to all traffic, so that's a highway. This proposal fronts that highway, much like the development over the road fronts the highway. So in my opinion, that's not backland development, it's the completion of a street.
Do you want to come back on that?
Mr. Chairman, looking at this is clearly, looking at this map, is clearly backland development. So we've got the red line, we've got the blue line. Are these blue lines part of ditches and dikes?
I believe the blue lines on that location plan are drains.
So have you addressed the drainage boards?
So as part of the building regulations package, that's when we go into consultation with the drainage board fully, because we would have to make sure that there's surface water drainage, foul water drainage included in the scheme. But you will note there's no objections in terms of drainage from any of the statutory consultees.
Shanna, as you well know, the drainage boards are not statutory consultees. I sit on 11 of them, and I believe this is March 6th. And certainly if they've not been consulted, you haven't got a vote because it comes under byways, drainage byways.
You want to come back on that?
I mean, I would just reiterate that we would deal with drainage naturally under the building regs.
Perhaps we're going really in circles here. I don't think there's any definitive answers or any more. Does anybody else want to, just to reiterate? Councillor Benny, thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Numbers about drainage, we hear this floods. I'm just sitting here looking on there is no drainage strategy in there. Will you be submitting a drainage strategy at reserve matters stage? And also, we hear quite a lot that lots of applications and fields flood, and when you build on them, the drainage strategy resolves that. Would you highlight that to the committee, or am I on my assumptions right there, please?
Yeah, so when we have the detailed design, that's when we'd be able to provide the drainage details, because of course at this stage we don't know how big the building's going to be, where exactly it's going to be on site. So I would fully anticipate that should outline planning permission be granted, that would include a drainage condition for the submission of a drainage strategy, which can be either submitted as part of the reserve matters, so it can be looked at then, or to be submitted and agreed prior to commencement of development. But I mean, it's something we will do, and we have to do, and we know that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody else at all? Will Miss Penny go? No, thank you very much. So, members, it's come to time for questions to officers. Has anybody got anyone they want to raise to officers? Councillor French, thank you.
Thank you. I don't know who's going to answer this. I can see this as backland development. I believe that is your stance as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's a short, sharp answer. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. There was the objection there was mention from the objector that letters weren't received or were to the applicant. Was there an issue when sending letters out?
There wasn't an issue as far as I'm aware. We've consulted everybody that shares the red line boundary with the site, and we put a site notice up on the 11th of March. The additional letters we've received were received after the original report was drafted, so that's why we've got the update report.
Can I ask, are those letters the locals within that area,
They are.
which would have been written to in the first place?
Bear with me one sec, I'll just check if they were in the...
Clarity, Chairman, the policy we have in relation to consulting neighbours is about adjoining sites, so it's quite often that, people who feel they maybe should have been consulted and not because they're, 2 sites away or whatever. So, we see it all the time. It's, the point of the consultation site notice is so that people know about it, so they do have the opportunity.
The reason for my question is it's quite interesting to know whether the post actually gets through to if it's the neighbouring properties or whether it's sort of just around the area.
There is a notice on a lamppost or something like that. I know people, well, I do look at them, I suppose, but on a different case, but they are put on there, I have to say. Did you want to come back at all?
So I believe the objection letter was from 117 Knights End Road and 119, but they wouldn't have been in the original consultation because they're much further up the road. They don't share the red line boundary with the site.
Thank you.
It's fair enough then. Councillor French again, thank you.
Thank you. In the report 1.4, insufficient details, I know we've had an explanation from Shanna. I believe this is an incomplete application. Is that correct?
Obviously, that's a question to officers, and if you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, so we've got the BNG metric submitted, which we get with any application that requires BNG. It doesn't show that 10% gain would be met. It actually shows that we see 100% loss of all habitats. The issue is we've got no assurance with the application that any of those habitats could be avoided, mitigated or compensated for.
Okay. Any more questions to officers at all before I'm looking? No. Okay. So, members, I'd like to invite members to debate the item in respect to material planning considerations and ask office any questions relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand and we're in debate. Who wants to kick it off? Councillor French.
Thank you. I will refer back to what I said earlier. I started working on this plan in 2013. It took 4 years for it to be completed, and certainly that part, backland development, was not taken into consideration. With regarding what the agent said about Marchtown Council recommended approval, none of the Marchtown Council who sit on the planning committee were even there. And if they started reading the policy, they might understand it better. As far as I'm concerned, there's a backland development and insufficient information.
Okay. That started the debate off. I'm sure you've got something to say, Councillor Benny. Thank you.
I might do. Looking at residents not getting letters, it's only those that are very adjoining the red line. And looking at the nearest one, which was 117, is 8 houses down. I think it's a reasonable distance away that they wouldn't be consulted. As to the biodiversity net gain, we had the Bellway site at Wimlington, where David Rowan told us that you can't do biodiversity gain because you don't know what's going to be on the site. And therefore, if you don't know what's going to be there, you can't mitigate against it. You could put bird boxes in, you could do that. That can be dealt with at reserve matters level. I agree with that. Myself and Councillor French went and had a look at the site yesterday, and I drove down there quite comfortably and turned round. And from memory, it was a gravel sort of roadway, which was plenty good enough for my car to go down. We've got Honey Lane at Chatteris, which serves more dwellings than this one does, and that is a gravel drove, and that is very similar. It comes off London Road. And we've got two bungalows opposite this site that are behind the main road on Knights End Road. So we've got two backland development, if it is backland, if it is not, or is this taken off Linwood Drive? I'm unsure, but I think that, you know, this is very much the principle of development is there because the two bungalows that are behind it or opposite it. There we are. An alternative view. I'll leave it for the committee to peruse.
That it is. Councillor French again.
Yes, thank you. Yes, we did, after we finished our training yesterday, we did go down there. And yes, Councillor Benny did turn round, but he turned round in a neighbour's drive.
That's very inconsiderate of you, Councillor Benny, but well, there we are. Some lesser driver might have done though. Anyway, to get back to some sort of normality, we're still in debate. So we've had Councillor Benny's thoughts, we've had Councillor French's thoughts. Anybody want to add to that? We've got another 10 seconds and I'm going to cut this debate off. I'm mindful of time. No, last chance. No, that's it then. Debate's finished. Members, questions to officers. That's very surprising. Right, no questions. So you don't want any? Any questions? So, anybody got any thoughts on questions to officers? This is the last chance. No, okay. So, do I have a proposal to go with officer recommendation to refuse planning permission? To refuse. So, Councillor Gerstner is going to propose that. Councillor French is going to second that, to go with officer recommendation to refuse this application. Can I have a show of hands on that?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Those against that proposal?
2.
So that application then, we've got what you're going to accept. So we've got 4 against, 2 for, and 1 abstention. So that application has been refused. Thank you. So now I'll hand over to Danielle Brooke. She's the Senior Development Officer here at Fenland to present agenda item 7 FY 26-0220F. So over to you, Danielle, when you're ready. Thank you.
Sorry, I did realise I didn't do this in my declaration. I know the applicant. It was from when he was at school. He used to come in the shop, but he used to come in and I used to chat to him quite a bit. But up until this application came back and since, I have not spoken to him. And I mean, you know, it's 20, 30 years ago since then. But I did declare this last time, and I will declare it this time, that I knew him when he was 15, 16 years old. We don't discuss, we're not friends, but I just wanted to add that to the debate. I declared it last time, and it was accepted last time.
Better safe than sorry. Councillor Benny, would you like to do your presentation now? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 7 is for the erection of 5 dwellings, including the demolition of the existing outbuildings at land north of Cherry Tree House on Falla Corner Drove in Maney. The application site consists of the rear garden associated with the existing dwelling known as Cherry Tree House. There is open farmland to the north and east of the site and mature boundary treatments along the eastern and western boundaries, as you can see from the photograph. The site lies to the south of the village of Maney and is accessed via Falla Corner Drove, which is mainly single-track, unclassified road and serves a number of dwellings and farmsteads. There is existing access off Falla Corner Drove for the host dwelling that will be utilised for the proposed development. To the immediate west of the site is an established agricultural engineering operation, which comprises a large agricultural-style warehouse surrounded by hard standing. The adjacent complex was granted outline planning permission to erect up to 6 dwellings involving the demolition of the existing buildings under 250238/0 on the 30th of June 2025. The site lies in flood zone 3. The proposal seeks full planning permission for the erection of 5 detached dwellings, together with the formation of a private access road, parking, landscaping, surface water drainage infrastructure, boundary treatments and biodiversity enhancements. The development follows an extant planning in principle consent, reference YR230939 PIP, for up to 5 dwellings that was granted in May 2024. Accordingly, the principle of development has been established by the virtue of that extant approval. The proposal also includes an attenuation pond to the western part of the site, tree planting and associated boundary fencing. Each dwelling occupies an individual plot with private amenity space and off-street parking. An example of the proposed street scenes for the development are shown, just to give you an idea of the scale of the dwellings. Here are some photos of the site. Photo number 1 shows the existing adjacent development along Fallow Corner Drove. Photo 2 shows the host dwelling, Cherry Tree House, and the existing access that will be utilised for the development. Photo 3 is facing southwest towards the host dwelling, showing the outbuildings that are due to be demolished. And photo 4 is facing west across the site toward the adjacent existing agricultural complex, which has outstanding outline permission. So whilst the proposal constitutes a form of backland development and introduces a denser pattern of development that is typically characteristic of this part of Fallow Corner Drove, only limited weight can be attributed to this harm because of the extant permission in principle on the site. The development is therefore considered acceptable in principle, in design terms, and it provides an attractive scheme with appropriate scale, landscaping, private amenity space in accordance with Policy LP 16. It would offer a good standard of residential amenity for future occupiers and safeguard amenity for neighbouring properties with no unacceptable impacts arising. Cambridgeshire County Council raises no objection on highways grounds subject to conditions, and the scheme provides safe access, adequate visibility, parking provision and turning facilities. The submitted flood risk assessment demonstrates that the development can be made safe for its lifetime within flood zone 3 through appropriate mitigation, whilst the drainage strategy would reduce surface water runoff rates and provide a drainage betterment over the existing situation. Ecological and arboricultural impacts are capable of being satisfactorily mitigated through the submission of a biodiversity game plan. And on balance, it's considered that the benefits of the proposal outweigh the limited harms identified, and the application is therefore recommended for approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. We have one speaker on this application, and now I'd like to invite Matthew Hall, of course he's the agent, to make his presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes, Mr. Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. So as we've just heard, this site already has an extant planning in principle for up to 5 dwellings, and I know that was indicative, but this layout, access and numbers are very, very similar to that planning in principle. This site was previously supported by members of the planning in principle, and as Danielle has just said, the site directly to the west has since then been given outline approval for 6 dwellings, and mainly as a growth village, as we know, under Policy LP3. There's no technical objections to this application or any objections from members of the public. We've submitted numerous technical reports with the application, and there's no objections to these. We've had, yet again, a good service from the planning officer, Danielle Brooke. Report is thorough, covers everything, as did the presentation, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you.
That was short and sweet. Very refreshing. Members' questions to Mr. Hall, and we've got one from Councillor Marks. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Hall. 2 questions. Firstly, you just said 6 properties. He did say 6.
That's the site to the west.
The FJS site. Right, sorry, I misunderstood.
Next one, please.
So, yeah, number 2. Can you just discuss is this going to have treatment plant or go on to main sewer?
So along this section of Fallow Corner Drove, for quite a long way, there's no main sewer. There's a ditch northwest, top northwest, and there's one southeast. Both abut this site. One's in the site. So we've got a swale for attenuated discharge, and we would be looking at treatment plants within the gardens. Each person would have their own. There is no main sewer down here, no.
Thank you. I did sort of know the answer to that question, but mainly Parish Council have made it very clear, and Anglian Water, that they don't want any more being connected at present time.
Excellent, excellent. Right, and Councillor Gerson, I think.
Thank you. Can you confirm that these properties will have solar panels and heat pumps?
So in Mainey, there's no mains gas, so we will have to have air source heat pumps to comply with building regulations. We've also shown solar panels. Could be a mixture of both. Could just be an air source heat pump, but building regs would have to have an energy assessment, and that would tell us what's required. But I'd be 99% sure we'd have to have an air source heat pump. More and more properties we do, people also want solar panels, so I would answer yes. Yes.
So the short answer is yes. Councillor French?
Thank you, Mr. Holt. Looking at the plans, I'm assuming that this one is a ditch? Sorry. There's your development. So how have you spoken to the drainage boards?
We had a report by a drainage consultant at MTC to discharge into that ditch. I can't be 100% sure off the top of my head if they spoke to the drainage board about that. No, I can't be 100% sure off the top of my head.
I'm assuming that you will do.
We'll definitely have to. Yes, definitely. Yes.
Councillor Mark, did you want to? No, you're happy. So any more questions for Mr. Hall before we let him go? Nope, thank you. So before I take questions to officers, just to avoid confusion and a point of clarity for the emails that we've already, or most of us received from Mainey Parish Council and Councillor Bonus, please could you explain why there is no 106 monies regarding this site? So over to you, Matt, for the explanation.
Thank you, Chairman. Council's policy and MPPF direct affordable housing and Section 106 contributions to schemes that are 10 or more. 10 or more. 10. But yeah. But yes, so if it's 9 or less, we don't seek contributions in line with our policy and government guidance. So a scheme such as this just does not fall within that remit, and therefore doing so would be conflict with our development plan, and government guidance would not stand up if challenged.
Okay, so I'm going to bring Councillor French in, and then Councillor Marks, or vice versa. Go.
Sorry, being the ward councillor for Mainey, could I ask that you write to Mainey Parish Council and explain that position, please? Thank you.
And also,
the Chairman, happy to do that.
Yes, I'm happy for that. And also, can you copy in Councillor Marks as the ward councillor, and I'd like a copy as being chairman. So thank you for bringing that up. I was going to bring that up anyway, Councillor Marks, but Councillor French.
Thank you. I am really surprised that the parish clerk, who was on the planning committee in many years ago, also the leader of this council some years ago, and he should know better than to ask for £2,000 towards a development which is under 10. And the town clerk should know, the parish clerk should know that as well. So I really do think, I did see something in Facebook with regard to the MP. I don't know why the MP is getting involved under 9 houses, 10 houses, whatever the case may be. But I do think that the parish are just trying to make fools of us.
Put some meat on those bones. Yes, the MP has always said to me he doesn't want to get involved in any planning decisions by this council. He was always happy for us to determine any planning permission on its merits. So goodness knows why he's getting involved with this. Perhaps his time would be better spent elsewhere. And you're absolutely right. The parish council clerk was on this planning committee many years ago, So there is just, I don't understand why he's getting involved as well, but we are where we are. So with that, members, questions still for officers. I know that's a comment that Councillor French and I have made, but it needed to be made. So members, questions to officers. Nope, stopping that then now. Thank you. I'd like to invite members to debate the item in respect of material considerations and ask officers any question relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. So basically we're in debate, and Councillor French.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, this is the first full application we've had with the PIPs, and it is very welcome. I did ask some months ago when we would likely to see this. I think this is a well-written, well-designed plan, and I fully support this.
Yep, thank you very much for your comment. Councillor Marks.
Thank you. Again, I would back up what Councillor French says. Being the ward councillor, Fallow Drove along there is being certainly developed. This will be the last one on the envelope out of the village. We already know it has outline as such, so I think it will be a good development. Many Parish Council and Anglian Water have said regarding connection to the sewers, it's actually far enough away. The variation is correct, so we're not going to be putting any further stress on the sewage works, which do need spending on. And I think it will bring 5 new houses. Next door has recently also been given outline or a PIP as well. So I think it will just tidy that end of the village up. It's sad to see industrial go, but this is the way of the world.
Okay, so I think I've got a steer of where this may be going. Certainly I support the two previous speakers' comments. Does anybody else want to add to them? We're in debate, of course. Anybody's very welcome to. No, I'm going to close the debate now. I can see there's no appetite for that. Officers, have you got anything to say? No. So I'm just looking for a proposer now to go with officer recommendation to approve this. Councillor Mark, the ward councillor, I'm going to take him to propose it. Would you like to second it? Okay, so I've got a proposal on the table. Councillor Marks is to propose, seconded by Councillor Purser, to approve this application. Can I have a show of hands on that, please? That application has been approved. Thank you, members. What do you want to do? Hey? Well, I think we should do one. Then we can start on the other ones. Does anybody want to go? Are everybody all right with that? And just doing another one. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right. I'm going to get on with it then. So, without further ado, I'll hand over to Kimberly Crow to present agenda item number 8, FYR 260222F. Away we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So agenda item 8 seeks retrospective planning permission for the replacement of the existing shop front and installation of cladding, external security shutters and a retractable canopy at 63A to 65 Wisbeach Road, March. I would like to draw members' attention to the update report that was circulated yesterday also. So the application site is situated on a prominent corner plot at the Wisbeach Road and Norwood Road roundabout in March. The site forms a prominent feature in the street scene with views available from multiple vantage points. The surrounding area is predominantly characterised by residential buildings with varied designs and appearances. The proposed site plan is shown on screen. Number 63, adjacent to the site, incorporates a darker material palette. However, this building is of a significantly smaller scale. The extent of cladding alongside the building's prominence is considerably more limited. By contrast, the application property presents a large, uninterrupted expanse of dark cladding across its principal elevation, which, combined with the dark aluminium framing, gives the building a more industrial and utilitarian appearance. So the existing and proposed elevations are shown on the screen, which show the shop front changes. Some site photographs. So photo 1 shows the front elevation of the building, and you can see the adjoining premises in the very right hand side of the photo. And photo 2 shows the side elevation. So this application seeks full planning permission for the replacement of the existing shop front, installation of cladding, external security shutters and a retractable canopy. The proposal as originally submitted was considered to represent an inappropriate form of development which would have a harmful impact on the character or visual amenity of the surrounding area and would not be in accordance with policies LP16 and LP17 of the local plan. The update report circulated yesterday was following confirmation from the agent that they'd be willing to amend the proposal to remove the roller shutters and change the colour of the cladding to a lighter colour. No negotiations or a full assessment of the proposed amendments have been undertaken. However, it's considered that the suggestions would bring the proposed development more in line with the Council's adopted policies. Officers consider that it is appropriate to allow the applicant the opportunity to formally submit the amended details for full assessment. It's therefore recommended that the committee defer this application to enable the submission and proper evaluation of the proposed amendments.
Thank you. We have one speaker on this application. I'd now like to invite Kumira Hussain. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but something like right, of course, on behalf of the applicant to make his presentation to the committee. You have, her presentation to the committee. You've got 5 minutes.
Sorry, which one? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Humera Hussain. I am representing my friend Mohammed Adil, the owner and business at 63 to 65 Wisbeck Road, and I am speaking in support of application FYR26022F. Our request is straightforward. We ask you to approve the application with the front external shutter and retractable canopy removed. If revised, drawings must be considered first. Please defer the application briefly rather than refuse it. I will begin with the timetable because it explains why these changes are not already shown on the amended plans. On Tuesday, 14th of July, the agent was told that the application would come before this committee Wednesday, the 22nd of July, with a recommendation for refusal. The detailed reason was not provided. The agent asked for clarification and the case officer supplied the grounds on Thursday, the 16th of July, only 6 days before today's meeting. That was not enough time to discuss the concern properly, instruct the designer, prepare the amended elevations, and allow officers to assess them. I raise this not simply to criticize the process, but because an early design discussion could have produced the solution now being offered and avoided the need for refusal. The officer's concern is that the combination of dark cladding, shutter, and canopy creates an industrial, visually dominant, and fortified appearance. We have addressed the concern directly. Mohammed confirms that the front external shutter will be removed. The retractable canopy will also be removed. The canopy was intended only to provide shade and shelter for customers, but he accepts its removal as a genuine compromise. The external work is not yet complete. The photographs of the site show a building under renovation, not the finished Savoy frontage. The completed design will include professionally arranged artificial foliage across substantial sections of the elevation. This greenery introduces colour, breaks up the anthracite finish, and creates a softer, warmer, and more welcoming appearance. The design visual provided to members shows that clearly. What Mohammed asks is to retain the anthracite cladding, and there are sound planning reasons for doing so. First, this is an established commercial property. It previously operated as a bathroom and bedroom accessories business with a prominent blue and white frontage and extensive signage. This is not a domestic house where a commercial design has suddenly been introduced. Second, Mohammed has operated the takeaway immediately next door for 15 years. That business already has a dark frontage. The anthracite finish therefore creates continuity between two adjoining commercial premises and reflects the site's established commercial identity. Third, the building is not listed and is not within a conversation area. Good design still matters, but the proposal must be judged in its real context, a long-standing commercial frontage beside another commercial business. Finally, the photographs submitted show numerous premises in March using black, charcoal, grey, and other dark finishes. They include long facades, dark frames, shutters, and prominent corner frontages. We are not presenting them as automatic planning precedents. They are evidence that dark, modern commercial finishes are already established part of March's varied streetscape and are not inherently industrial or out of character. It is also important that the officer has identified only one reason for refusal: visual appearance. There is no separate objection concerning parking, highway safety, flooding, noise, privacy, or neighbouring amenities. This is therefore a focused design issue with a focus on proportionate solution. With the front shutter and canopy removed, the glazed frontage retained and the artificial greenery installed, the completed building would not have the harsh or fortified appearance described in the refusal reason. It will be an active, modern and welcoming commercial frontage. Mohammed has listened, responded and offered meaningful changes. Refusing the entire application would be disproportionate where the identified concern can be resolved through amended details. I therefore ask members to approve the application subject to details confirming removal of the front shutter and canopy, retention of the anthracite frontage and installation of the artificial foliage. If officers advise that revised drawings must be assessed before approval, then please defer the decision for that limited purpose. A completely new application should not be necessary when a clear solution is available today.
Thank you. Just before I ask members to ask questions of Ms. Hussain, the recommendation now just for, well, as members hopefully have looked, it's not for refuse, it's for defer. So just to be clear. So members, Councillor French.
Thank you, and thank you for your presentation. Several weeks ago, they were selling cars on the side of the road. Now we're talking about food. He's been there 15 years. I know the site very well. I pass it every day. So it looks like you're still going to have the takeaway. You're going to have some desserts. But round the corner, you had a car sales sign and cars up there for sale. Do you know what the proposals are on that? Because that site is not suitable for car sales.
Well, that's the first time actually hearing about this. I'm not aware of any car sales on the site at all, and it's got nothing to do with the business or us.
Thank you. If I can just come back, you say it's nothing to do with, I understand that, but it is round the corner, part of that building, which is the new bit windows that have been put in there, and there was a sign above car sales. That obviously has been, but if that's nothing to do with it, I mean, we're looking at the front. Thank you.
The building still is under renovation, so it might have previously operated as a car sales site. But it definitely doesn't have anything to do with the current business, and it probably is a work in progress, and we are working to change that.
Well, perhaps enforcement ought to be. I've gone. I think that's good then. So we haven't got involved in enforcement, have we? Right. Thank you for bringing that up, Councillor French. Anybody else got any questions, Mr. Hussain? No. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent. Questions, members for officers? Councillor French, you have one. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going back to what I just said about the car sales. I'm assuming that the planning department were contacted because very quickly the car sales signs and cars were removed. Are you aware of that?
Through Chairman, I know we've had some contact about unauthorised car sales recently, but I can't guarantee it was this site. It wasn't worthy of remembering the address.
Well, you can certainly keep your eye on it now. You've been definitely aware of it now, so that's perhaps one for your notebook. So, many more questions for officers at all? No, thank you.
Councillor Benny.
Councillor Benny. Sorry, Councillor Benny.
Sure, I don't mind who answers. You're asking for a deferral. What are you actually looking for in the changes to what is there? Because most of this is retrospective, so we can actually see what is there at the moment. What are you looking to change and why, please?
Dear Chairman, I think there's a number of issues, and obviously some, as the report explains, they compound on each other, including the canopy, the roller shutter, etc. And the applicant has accepted that there is some level of harm from them. We haven't had the opportunity of a full assessment, we haven't got plans, etc. So it's very difficult to say explicitly, but I think when you read the report, it isn't that there's one issue that is be all and end all of the issue problems with it. It is a compound and layered harm. So removing those things would probably be very likely to move towards something the account officers would support. But as you know, I can't guarantee anything sitting here at committee, but that's the reason why officers have recommended deferral, because we think that there'll be a significant move towards policy compliant by doing what's suggested by the applicant. But obviously, without going through the process, I can't comment any more than that.
Okay, Councillor French.
I've finished with questions, just when you're going to debate.
Any more questions for officers? No, so we're going into debate now. So I'd like now to invite members to debate the item in respect of material planning considerations and ask officers any question relevant to the application. If you'd like to speak, raise your hand. So once again, we're in debate. Who wants to kick this off? Councillor Benny.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Well, I've seen the updates where it's asking for a deferral, but truthfully, I think it looks really good. It's a commercial site, right? You probably wouldn't put commercial premises there today, but it has always been a commercial place. It is retail. It is, whether it's takeaway, it's selling stuff. And who knows better than the bloke who owns the business as to what he needs to maintain that business? And it might be a multi-tiered level of harm, but truly, a canopy that comes out. Canopies don't come out when it's windy. They don't come out in the rain. They don't come out. They're for the sun. It's not going to be out every day, and it won't be out. If you have a canopy, you won't have it out overnight. You'll bring it in at night because people go and swing on them. I know from experience. So it won't be out. It will only be open at the times when the business is open, and if the business needs it at that time, then it needs it. In terms of colour, I could paint my house pink. There is no law or nothing that would stop me from painting my house pink. So why are we dictating a colour to something which I think actually looks quite nice? And then we come to roller shutters, which are subjective, but it's commercial property. And broken windows, we've discussed this before, broken windows can lead to a business going bust. You can't get insurance, or the insurance is that the excess is so great, it can bankrupt a business. And wherever you've got glass to protect it is better. And again, the shutter will be up during the day when the business is open. I know we're being asked to reassess this, but I really see nothing wrong with what is there. We've got the opportunity to approve this afternoon, and personally, I actually sat there and had quite a long look at it last night, and I see nothing wrong with it. It's changing the street scene. But when you build a house, you change the street scene. When you knock one down or put an extension on it, you change the street scene. It's just a change. If the business succeeds, then we've done the right thing by approving it. If the business doesn't succeed and it folds, then it will come back when somebody changes it again to bring it how they want it for their business. It's a fluid thing. I mean, the Men of March that's opposite has had changes to the exterior to it. You've got the one-stop shop that's directly behind it. That's had all new signage. That doesn't look like the cost cutter that it used to be. That's now a one-stop shop. That's changed. You've had a new wall put outside the front of that. Things evolve. To me, the bloke who knows what he's doing with this business is the business owner, and he's asked for what he wants. Personally, I could support this application.
Councillor French, and then I'll come in if nobody else doesn't want to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I pass this nearly every day. In actual fact, I've been watching the progress of this. That's why I know about the car sales. I actually think it looks quite classy. If you look round the rest of the... Sorry?
It's because you are.
If you look round town, I did notice when I was coming down here for training, we've got another new shop that's been done up, which I believe is, I did write it down, I forget what it was now. The spinning at the corner of Dart Hill Road and Dartford Road, right on the corner. That's been painted black, and it's going to be a new spinning. It is great to see businesses actually opening up. I didn't realise you'd been there 15 years. I didn't know that you'd been there sometime. I think, business people today, and especially going to open a new venture of desserts, which I'm quite looking forward to going in to get some, we should be supporting these businesses, not hounding them. It's not in a conservation area. As Councillor Benny said, we do have round the corner one-stop shop. We have the Men of March, which was taken over a few months ago. put some nice features outside. Whether they need a planning permission or not, I don't know, but it certainly looks good. So I think that whole corner is actually being complimented, and I could support this application.
Right, Councillor Marks.
I think I'd like to echo both of what Councillor Benny and Councillor French have said. This morning, actually driving in, I was actually on the phone to my councillor beside me, and I was looking at, when I got to the T-junction, the black shop that there's just black fronted shop that's literally just been put up in the last few days with like, I think some of the photos we've seen and some of the description here is very stark, probably with a little bit of signage that will break it as well. It will make it balance more into the community. Actually, I see very little wrong with it. You know, we haven't had a horde of letters in of complaints saying it doesn't match. At the end of the day, business is hard enough as it is. You know, somebody is prepared to spend on an older building like that, keep it for what it is, because we could be quite easily sitting here with a block of flats, an HMO or whatever in its place. It's community benefit because it's feeding some of the community as well. To be fair, I feel it, you know, should go through.
Yeah, I'll come in now. I support this. I called this in because I thought it was some value to the committee, and it does appear that it actually does, which is really refreshing to hear. Yeah, I mean, to me, it smartens up the whole of that corner, and it's got the Men of March. It's been said before, it's on the other side of the road, and there's various properties. There's Harrodine's letting shop, a bit further towards town. There's all sorts of array of buildings there. There's detached houses, semi-detached houses, houses with big driveways on the other side of the road, terraced houses. So it'll only the street scene is higgledy-piggledy at best. So this, in my opinion, will do nothing harmful to the street scene at all. So I can and will support this application. But now, Councillor Purser, the floor is yours.
I have to say that my first thought on this was being retrospective. We've seen a lot of retrospective things I thought, you know, wasn't very happy about. But having said that, having listened to Councillor Benny and Councillor French and also Councillor Marks and for the different arguments, I was very, very open-minded. I think that's the right word for it. But now I'm very much, yes, I can support this. I'm very much in favour. I think it's a really good idea, and I think it's basically going to enhance business, and we wish the business owner well. Thank you.
Well done, well said. Councillor French, your last word is yours.
Thank you. Councillor Purser, you've been on this council long enough. Retrospective is not a crime.
Retrospective planning has to be given the same weight as a new planning application, just for anybody's thoughts. But anyway, well done anyway. So I'm gonna stop this debate because I've got a fair idea where this may be going. So officers, have you got anything to say?
No.
Nothing whatsoever. Okay. So do I have a proposal to go with officer recommendation to defer planning? The officer's recommendation on the update is not refuse, it's defer. So the officer's recommendation, as we speak and sit in this chair, the officer's recommendation is to defer it. So I'll say again, just for clarification, do I have a proposer to go with officer recommendation to defer this application? Nope. So I'm looking for a different proposal. Councillor. Here we go. Right. Who wants to propose something? Councillor French, what are you proposing and the reasons for doing so?
Thank you, Chair. I propose that we approve this application. We're supporting local businesses. We should be looking to support businesses. You know, we're fortunate we don't have many empty shops in town. And it's nice to have a business not in the middle of town, but slightly out of town. And there's hundreds of residential homes around there. I fully support businesses, and I think that's a reason to approve it.
And to add to that, it will probably bring more prosperity to the town and economic benefits we can add to that. The social benefit as well. People probably want the kebab when they come out of the Men of March pub or whatever they choose or whatever it may be. Councillor French?
We don't want too many reasons.
Okay. Okay, I hope you said that in jest, but we are. Well, so I've got a proposal on the table, proposed by Councillor French, seconded by Councillor Miffordin, to go against officer recommendation, which was to defer. Can I have a show of hands on that? To approve, of course. To approve, of course. That application has been approved, and now it's 3:10. Can I ask anybody, all members and the public, to be back by 25 past, 20 past, so we can press on. Thank you.
Chairman, since I'm not taking part in the next two things, can I be excused, please? Thank you.
Thank you, members, for being back promptly. Without further ado, I'll hand over to David Grant. He's a Senior Development Officer here at Fenland to present agenda item number 9, which is an update on F/YR 250726. It's a PIP application and it's the relevant statutory duties to bring this back to committee. Thank you. So whenever you're ready, thank you, David.
Thank you, Chairman. This application seeks permission in principle for up to 2 dwellings on land south of 29 Primrose Hill, Doddington. This application was previously determined for approval at the Planning Committee of Wednesday the 4th of February 2026, following a committee overturn. However, following the committee's resolution, an interested third party wrote to the Council on the 20th of February 2026. The correspondence alleged, amongst other matters, that the decision was based on material errors of facts, a misunderstanding of the planning policy context, and an unlawful approach to the assessment of the development in the open countryside. This site is located in the open countryside in an elsewhere location. This location is isolated in planning terms and is a significant distance from the built-up settlement of Doddington. The application site lies within flood zones 1, 2 and 3, with the majority of the site in flood zones 2 and 3. This slide shows the distance to the built-up settlement of Doddington. The site is physically detached from the built-up form of Doddington by a distance of approximately 0.65 miles by road. These photos show a view of the site. The first photo shows a view of the site to the north, beyond which is a replacement dwelling. Photo 2 shows dwellings to the east. The dwelling in the foreground was associated with an agricultural use, and the dwelling to the rear is a barn conversion. Photo 3 shows land to the south and demonstrates that the site is in the open countryside in an isolated elsewhere location. Photograph 4 shows the site frontage with the drain to the front. Kindly note the difference in topography on from the site to the road above, named Primrose Hill. In summary, this application seeks permission in principle for the development of up to 2 dwellings on land south of 29 Primrose Hill, outside the development footprint of Doddington. The principle of development is not supported as the site does not adjoin the built form, and there is no planning justification for dwellings in this location. The application site constitutes an area of land outside the development footprint of Doddington, and development of this site would result in unacceptable urbanisation, extending development into the countryside. It would likely set a precedent for future developments, further eroding the character of the area and the open countryside. The development proposal will be in an elsewhere location, contrary to policies LP3 and LP12 of the Fenland Local Plan 2014. And as such, any residential development on this site will be contrary to the above policy considerations, and thus, in terms of location and use, the planning in principle application fails. Additionally, policy LP14, Part B of the local plan, requires development in flood zone 3 to undergo a sequential test to demonstrate that development cannot be delivered elsewhere in areas at lower risk of flooding. Policy LP2 seeks to deliver high-quality environments, ensuring that people are not put at identified risks from development, thereby avoiding adverse impacts in the interests of health and well-being. The site predominantly lies within flood zone 3, which is a high-risk flood area. The applicant has failed to undertake a substantive and evidence sequential test, and therefore failed to demonstrate that the development could not be delivered in an area of lower flood risk. Consequently, the proposal fails to satisfy policies LP14 and LP2 of the Fenland Local Plan, and accordingly, the recommendation is one of refusal.
Thank you, David. There are obviously no speakers on the agenda items number 9 and 10. So now I'd like to invite members to put questions to officers. Thank you. So members, questions to officers. I'm waiting with bated breath here, and Councillor Benny has done it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we've debated this. We debated it last time. We came to a conclusion. I acknowledge the receipt of an interested party who may want to challenge this. That is planning. That is the legal process. They have the right to do so. I've made my mind on this one when I came before, and I've looked at this again. Nothing has changed my mind on here. To me, this application, we did debate this. We debated this for some time when it was here before us, and truly nothing has changed to make me change my mind from that day to this.
Valid comments, Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Chair. Again, echoing the sentiments of what Councillor Benny has said. This feels a bit like a football match. If we don't win, let's change the ball game. Let's bring it back. So perhaps we ought to play Argentina again. You know, that's one of those. But in all seriousness, I think we did debate it, and we debated it for an awful long time when this came in front of us last time. I think also there is a slight material change as well, for the simple reason is we have also now given one or if not two properties across the road within the wooded area that we were told was open countryside as well. Half of that debate was also regarding speed along that, and Cams Highway had no real issues regarding speeding along that piece of road. Open countryside, well, it abuts another new house that's been built there. So, you know, that one was at open countryside originally, I take it, because that house had to be built at some point. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, elsewhere location, I probably would slightly, you know, if everybody wants us to accept that, I can't see any reason. But I think, you know, people are entitled to have a property in the middle of the countryside. Look at down the 40-foot river. There's lots of properties that just stand alone. Yes, some of them have been previous farmhouses, but some of them are just fen houses that have been put there. So I'm sorry, I'm still the same mind as Councillor Benny. And regarding flood zones, here we go again. When we get the new reservoir, we'll all be in a flood zone.
You can do, Councillor Benny. Thank you.
I mean, we say building in the open countryside. What is the depth of that? 50 metres, probably 30. I mean, if you go beyond that, you've got, what, 6 miles before you get to Ramsey 40-foot, at the bottom of the 40-foot. There is plenty of open countryside there, and not everybody wants to live in a town, and not everybody wants to live in a box. Some people want nice houses. Nice houses bring people who pay council tax. This will be good building work for local builders. I drove here today, and I drove past Gall Road, and there's the house that we built with the engineering company. I can't know, you know the people, David, on Gall Road opposite there. We passed a few months ago. That house. Sorry, no, the other one. Yeah, on the traffic lights on the corner. They've got the gable end built up on that day, and the timbers are on for the roof. These houses get built out, and not everybody wants to live in the Cardier estate of Peterborough.
Right, again, Councillor Marks.
I think again I go back to what is a Fenland village and how do Fenland villages grow. Fenland villages have always been road in, road out. This is just an extension really of a Fenland village by putting a house along the side of the road. Same as 40-foot, same as Ramsey Heights, Ramsey St Mary's, all of those. We're not backland filling as we've been said already today. We're actually just building a property against the roadside.
I think I've listened with interest again to the officer presentation, and as it's been said before, it was debated thoroughly, and I'm of the mind that nothing's changed for me, and I should be going along with the same recommendation that I did some 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. That's where I am, but anybody else can make further comments if they wish. Councillor French.
Yeah, I think the three of you summed it up. Yeah,
Summed it up. Okay, that's good. We're summing something up. Right. So, officers, this will be interesting.
Thank you, Chairman. As the officer's report clearly explains, you know, members are entitled to come to different recommendation to officers, not bound by our recommendations, but you are bound by the same policies, guidance and case law. I think the report deals with a number of issues, and obviously one of the points was about whether or not it's elsewhere location. You know, in policy terms, I think it's difficult to say it's not. If members don't think there's any harm or conflict with that, that's obviously a different matter. But obviously that needs to be articulated, taking into account that the previous argument for this not being an elsewhere location heavily based around prior approvals, housing conversions, replacement dwellings, etc. So in the context of actually, character of the area and what other material considerations are on all fours with this application. The bigger issue I would obviously say is that the legal advice is that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to consider that a dwelling in a flood zone as a pit can meet the second, or the first and the second limb of the exceptions test. The first limb obviously relates to the provision of sustainable benefits, that benefit the community. Obviously, there needs to be something that not all applications deliver to be able to meet that limb, otherwise there wouldn't be a need for a test. As a pit, there are no real benefits other than the fact that the provision of market housing, and as explained, it's very difficult to come to the conclusion that those benefits meet that additional test, because otherwise every single housing development would meet those tests. So, and then the second part is obviously in relation to the ability both for the dwelling to withstand flood, but also to ensure that flooding isn't caused onto any other adjoining sites. Without the presence of details that cannot be delivered through a pit, as decision makers, we do not have the information in front of us to be able to confirm that. And therefore, you can't confirm, which is what's required by the second limit of the exception test, that there will not be additional flooding on other land. And I think, obviously, if members look to approve this, obviously the reason for approval will obviously have to be verbalised today, rather than obviously what was historically said, because this is a re-continuation of the debate, those have fallen away. And I think if members do look to support the scheme, they need to be conscious of those points when looking to evidence why the scheme is acceptable, and either whether it's in accordance with the development plan, or if, and government guidance, or if there are any particular benefits that outweigh the harm, something that sets it apart from any other residential development. Thank you, Chairman.
So, questions to officers, we're still in. Everybody's been happy with the debate. There's no good going on with that. So, with questions to officers, and Councillor Marks has got one.
I'm a little confused regarding the secondary part of this being flooding. 1 minute we're hearing this is open countryside. What is it likely to cause flooding to? We have I think it's from memory. Baxter's built one. There's a commercial building a bit further along, and I'm not sure if there's not another house, 2 or 3 houses, with a good drainage plan, and not being funny a dike, and it's a field. I don't see that a secondary flooding is going to cause any problem on that site whatsoever. And I think that's a bit of a blind to be that coming through. And I think even an inspector who doesn't probably know the fens and knowing how well this land is drained anyway would probably come to the same conclusion. Regarding it being the open countryside, I think that's a difference of opinion from what I can see. When you see properties across the road, which you can see, Henry Shepherd's yard a bit further along, and properties there, and as I say, as we've just given to Mr. Gowler in the wooded area there. So I'm sorry, I still maintain I'm in support of this application.
Okay, you're happy with that? Yes, I'm going to come to Councillor Benny.
The land.
Sorry?
I know the land that this is on. I know of the farmer. I don't know him. I've never spoken to him, but I know the farmer who owns the land. And you can see from standing at the road that it drains away. There's a natural drop off the island of Doddington, or the area that Doddington is in. When you look at that, and everything, Chatteris, when it was 2,000 people lived there, my father's house was on the edge of town. It's 3 miles into the centre of town now, my father's ex-house. You know, where else do you build? The government wants us to build houses. The government wants us to put housing up. I mean, Angela Rayner, when she was in charge the first time, she's just come back. She said anything that involves, when she was a housing person, she said anything that brings economic benefit to the area should be considered for development. That certainly fits her interpretation of it. Not that I go greatly on what Angela Rayner says, but you know, there is benefit to this. And the open countryside, there is miles of country countryside. If you stand at Chatteris, you've got 14 miles of it going to Ely. You've got 10 miles of it going to March. But we can stick a reservoir in the middle of it that's going to be a muddy hole and brings no benefit to the people of Fenland. It will do at South Cams, but we can do that. But one house, two houses is considered wrong. I don't consider that this is.
Can I just kindly come back on the points made? Statements by government ministers are not the basis of planning policy by which we make our decisions. Additionally, I don't think that Mr. Gowler's site is a fair basis for comparison with this, because there are material differences in that the entirety of Mr. Gowler's site was in flood zone 1. Flood risk forms a material concern and one of the reasons for refusal on this application. So stating that Mr. Gowler's site, which was entirely within flood zone 1, justifies this application, there is a material difference there. Thank you.
Did you want to come back, Councillor Benny, before I bring Councillor Marks in? Rightio. Floor is yours, sir.
Quite agree what David just said, apart from we're saying about elsewhere location. Surely the more properties we put somewhere, it doesn't then become an elsewhere location. It almost becomes a hamlet. So whether it's in flood zone 1 or flood zone 3 for Mr. Gowler, it's still got more properties around it. So there is properties there. So I understand what you're saying in one way, but actually, you know, we have given, and again, that was up for refusal. And that was allegedly in open countryside. Actually, it stood in a wood, but that was pointed out last time round. So do understand slightly where you're coming from, David, but that is my reasoning behind it, that, you know, the more houses that are going along there and have already been given permission.
For
Yeah,
point
please
of
come in, Matt.
clarity, the settlement hierarchy would still include hamlets as elsewhere locations. So the fact that you were making somewhere a hamlet wouldn't stop it being an elsewhere location. The settlement hierarchy is based around facilities such as shops, public transport, employment opportunities, schools, etc. So therefore, you know, without providing that kind of facilities, you aren't changing the sustainability credentials of a site, which is the basis of where is not an elsewhere location. And that's the point around, it's not an elsewhere location is not saying there are no other houses or other properties. It is based around what the settlement hierarchy states, and therefore you can't, my advice would be to say somewhere is not an elsewhere location when the settlement hierarchy is clear that the policy, by the policy and the wording, that somewhere is. You can say that it's not an issue, but to say that it's not an elsewhere location is just a very difficult stance. It's not a subjective matter. There is a policy line, and you have to just either say agree, you know, we're tied by that. Thank you, Chairman.
Bring Councillor Marks back in.
So to the head of planning, just for clarity, then if we say, okay, we will accept this is an elsewhere location, and there is no harm that's caused, does that then alleviate the issues that you are now saying? You know, because at the end of the day, it's semantics. At the end of the day, this property, you know, you can say, I mean, I personally still think it's in a slightly built up area, but you know, if you're saying that for what you want us to say is it's in an elsewhere location, I still think the outcome of this committee is going to be the same. But you know, is that what you're asking us to direct our view on?
Through you, Chairman, I'm not. What I'm asking you to say is we agree with the officer's recommendation and refuse it. But obviously, this is a slightly separate matter. The reality is, I'm not here saying what. I'm not asking you to say something. But I'm just trying to give you some very clear advice on the legal approach to looking at policy. If a policy says something quite explicitly, you can't, whether accidentally or intentionally, misdirect yourself. Because even if you misdirect yourself completely accidentally, that is still an unlawful decision. So even if you read it wrong or you think it says something, that can still be challenged and be flawed. So if you think there is no harm from it being in an elsewhere location, you would then need to be able to articulate why that harm isn't there, why all the reasons for why we don't support housing in elsewhere locations is not relevant to this, or that there's particularly material considerations that outweigh that conflict with the policy. That's in members, it's your prerogative to find those and to put forward your assessment. But all I can just provide is very clear basis of the policy that, is that an elsewhere location is not saying it's a house in the middle of nowhere. It's saying it's not in one of the higher up settlement hierarchies. And I don't think, I think we can all accept that this is not within one of the, the very urban areas of the district. And therefore, in policy terms, it is in an elsewhere location. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, perhaps you can throw some light on it.
Would you just add what Matt has said, that to be make a more legally robust decision, it's better that members, having absorbed the advice from officers and read the report, conclude, well, yes, it is an elsewhere location, because it's quite difficult to argue that it isn't an elsewhere location. But notwithstanding that, members might think, because of the presence of other buildings nearby, etc., that this is a less vulnerable elsewhere location, or a different sort of character of the elsewhere location to justify an approval in your minds. We're not saying that should be approved, but that's by far the the better approach than to argue that it is not an elsewhere location, because that's really unarguable.
Councillor Marks.
Could I ask then, Chair, that we go back into debate just to discuss whether we would come up with a conclusion regarding elsewhere location?
We can go back in debate. There's nothing stopping us going backwards. Did you want to continue that? We are where we are, and we can.
So we've heard legal, and we've heard from the head of planning to say that the thing about it is, do we describe this as an elsewhere location? It is a location with a number of properties. It's interpretation, I believe, of whether it's elsewhere. I am happy. It hasn't got probably some of the amenities that like in the towns with shops and everything else. However, but the villages. But most people who want to live in the countryside are aware of this. There's internet shopping these days, so food can arrive by van. What other amenities does it need around it? It's got electric. It's got water. So I would accept if anybody else is in the same mind that it's an else. We can class it as an elsewhere location. Bit semantic, but okay, fine, let's do it. Over to anybody else.
With a mile and a half, you've got hairdressers, you've got a pub, you've got a shop, you've got fish and chip shop, garage. So yeah, a quarter mile you've got a footpath. So and obviously, if you're going to live in that vicinity, you're going to have some vehicle transport to get into the village. So, and if you look at Mainey, if you live at one end of Mainey to the other end of Mainey, Barl Fenway, you've got a lot more distance than that to get to the train station, haven't you, where you live? So, I think I'll just listen to what Councillor Benny's got to say, and then I may well come back.
I mean, listening to what Stephen's telling us, do we look at this as, yes, we accept it as an elsewhere location, but it does no harm? I see this does absolutely no harm to the environment. It's my area. It joins my ward. Yeah, it does adjoin my ward. I certainly wouldn't be passing something that I thought was detrimental or in any way bad for my area that I live in. So I think there is no harm. in the elsewhere location at all.
Councillor Knox.
I think also short term, we're looking at economic. What does it bring in? It brings in a local builder building a site. It's not going to go on to mains drainage, so we're not overloading again a drainage system. And by the looks of the plan, I would hazard a guess it would probably soon have horse paddocks or whatever around it, and then that brings other economic benefit as well. So, yeah, as I say, if we want to go, it's an elsewhere location. I'm happy to support that, but I'm still happy to support the application.
And of course, as you quite rightly say, it won't overload the sewage. They'll have to have treatment plants there anyway, and I'll have to get permission further along to discharge into the drainage system anyway. And don't forget, this is all we've got. It's a PIP application, and we're saying, is this piece of land suitable for 2 dwellings? And my belief says it is. But I do tend to agree it is an elsewhere location, but of course people do want to live in elsewhere locations. They've got a farm overlooking open countryside in 4 different ways, haven't they? North, south, east and west. And people like that. And it's been happening like that for centuries. So, you know, I supported it last time, and I've seen nothing at all to change my mind this afternoon.
I think we've done this to death. We could be here at 8 o'clock at night and ordering pizza.
Not going to be here at 8. I need my tea.
Yeah.
So anybody? So would you like to come back? And then I'm going to go to a proposal.
For your chairman, I'll
And
just
reasons.
be repeating what I've said before.
Yeah.
So,
right.
no.
Okay. So then I'm going to look for a proposer to go with officer recommendation to refuse this planning permission. Have I got a proposer to do that? That's obviously failed. So I'm looking for a different proposal. Anybody got a different proposal? Yes, Councillor Mark. What is it and the reasons for doing so?
Okay, so I propose we go against officer recommendation and approve this application. I think having had the previous debate and the debate today and listened to legal and the head of planning's advice, we now feel that yes, we can say it is an elsewhere location. However, it does no harm or impact for it. In fact, it brings economic benefit, likely to bring economic benefit, and also there's no impact on amenities such as sewage or anything else. It's already got electric and water to it, and yeah, so that's where I am with it.
Economic growth, it'll bring work.
Regarding flood risk, again, that can be mitigated against. We've heard from head of planning that he believes it could bring flood risk to a neighbouring property. Well, as it's an elsewhere location, yes, there is property next door to it, but I'm sure that can be mitigated against. You know, we are again living in the fens. There's a ditch to the front where runoff water could be easily directed, and I'm sure with a very robust drainage strategy that could be sorted.
Could I ask Councillor Mark? You need to grapple with the reason for refusal that says a flood risk sequential test is required and exceptional test. Is your view that you don't think a flood risk assessment is required, or are you saying that what's been put forward is acceptable in your view?
As we've previously been told, on a PIP, all we are looking for at the present time is this land suitable. Everything, all of the rest of that, I believe, can be done in pre-apps or whatever. So if we're going to go down that route, then we need to have a rethink again. But as far as I'm concerned, yes, I believe this land is suitable for development. Anything that follows on from that.
See, Chairman, for clarity as before, as I've said numerous times, whether a site is acceptable for development, the principle of it is affected by multiple issues. In some and in a lot of cases, maybe not so much in Fenland because of the flood constraints, you know, you are literally looking at just a piece of land and is it acceptable or not. But when the site is in a flood zone, that is a consideration of whether or not it is acceptable to be building housing on it. And if you grant the principle of that, that is not a consideration then to be able to revisit, because that part has already been accepted. And then what that then translates to, obviously, is a situation where, you know, which you used Stephen's words earlier, you know, you're determining something blind. The MPPF says you need to be confident of these things. Going, oh, I presume it'll be able to be done because it can be done on other sites, is not meeting that threshold of being confident that details can be provided. And this is why, as I said, the legal advice is basically along the lines of PIPs and flood zones should not be granted because you can't comfortably deal with that. But that's the advice I can give you.
Councillor Benny first, and then Councillor French, then I'll come in then.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, I've been looking at other authorities, and we've got our neighbouring one, Kings Lynn, West Norfolk. There is a PIP, there is an outline, and there is a full application approved by officers in flood zone 3 without a sequential test. It can be done. It's this they are there, and it says in the report. Just find the bit. And this is a neighbouring authority. If it is national policy, then Kings Lynn, West Norfolk wouldn't be doing this. Due to the flood risk of the area, new dwellings in Barroway Drove are required to be raised to mitigate against flood level, which we will be doing. The proposed dwellings would therefore be raised by a ground of 1 metre. However, this would not make the dwellings appear dominant and would be consistent with the height of surrounding new dwellings which have been raised to the height to address flood risk. And that was approved by officers in another authority. Now they're governed by the MPPF, the same as we are. Now, if they can do it with officers without, this didn't go planning committee because it says on the decision notices if it do, it can be done in one, it can be done in another authority. I did want to go through South Hollands as well, because
we should not. You know, officers aren't able to comment on that. But the first thing that I would just say off the cuff is that clearly they've got a policy that literally says there's a policy that deals with that. We don't have that. That is the point. We're silent. If you've got policies, it's completely different. But each application, and it was only when we got the legal opinion that we were informed, we were advised that basically you can't be doing it. So it's, you know, there's always a, you know, every day's a school day. But, you know, members, it's in their gift to do what they wish. All Stephen and I can do is try and provide you guidance and advice to make sure decisions are robust and legally defendable. But as always, it's in members' gift to make decisions that they see fit.
I'm going to stop this in a minute. I'm going to take Councillor Benny. You've probably got a return on this, have you?
I mean, irrespective of whether there's a local policy, the MPPF overrides it anyway, and we're still governed by that, the MPPF. So that is one thing, and we have taken a legal opinion, and I'm fairly certain Stephen will agree with this. If you ask 20 lawyers an opinion, you will get 40 different answers.
Depends on the question.
yeah. And if all you had to do was get a legal opinion to have an answer, there wouldn't be a judicial system with judges to oversee. I ring a solicitor up, one thing, he tells me one thing, Charlie rings a solicitor up opposite to me, and that solicitor, and they'll both tell us we're going to win, and we go to court. All that is a view from a solicitor. It doesn't mean they're right.
Okay, that's fine. So we're going to move on. Did you want to come in there, Councillor French? You've been very quiet, which worries me.
I wouldn't worry. Can you tell me, I did pull off a copy of permission in principle, which part of permission in principle does it say anything about flooding? Because the copy that I've got, I can't find anything.
Through you, Chairman, it doesn't explicitly say that, but one of the considerations about whether or not a site is acceptable is considering the various material considerations. It isn't a case of just, I don't understand the question really, because otherwise what you just be, just to be able to accept the principle is acceptable, you have to consider all the various matters that are relevant to that principle, and in sites and flood zones, that would be flooding. It doesn't explicitly say that, just like it doesn't explicitly say that building on a minefield wouldn't be acceptable. You know, it doesn't have to do that. It relies on professional judgment and the consistency across the system and how we deal with matters. You know.
So I'm going to bring this to a close now. Hopefully no one else has got anything to say. I've let this run and run and run, because I think it's a really, really important decision that we're making here, as every other planning committee decision is. So we haven't got any. So going back on the proposal, we haven't got a proposal to go with officer recommendation to refuse. We have got a proposal from Councillor Marks on the table. Would you like to reiterate some of the reasons?
I think the only last reason that we've got, as Stephen mentioned, was the flood risk. We've heard from a colleague across there, obviously, what he has said regarding Kings Lynn. You know, if we're going to go, if the MPF allows that to happen, to me, it's a no-brainer. We just run with what is there. Obviously, Kings Lynn have take a different interpretation to what flooding and flood zones are, and therefore, I will go with that.
Yeah, so that's good. I'm happy with that. Thank you very much, Councillor Benny, for doing your homework and bringing that to my and L committees and officers' attention. Councillor Marks.
Sorry, could I ask that Councillor Benny probably share that information with all of us, please, because it would make interesting reading. Because I think at times we have heard about flood zones and stuff. Perhaps we can do a bit more into that.
So I'm looking. Have you got a seconder, Councillor Benny? So we've got a proposal, and I'm happy with the reasons why, proposed by Councillor Marks, seconded by Councillor Benny, with the decisions that have been given. Can I have a show of hands on that?
Sorry, can we just have any conditions that are put on?
You can't have conditions on it.
Sorry.
So we're going to go to the vote now. So that's unanimous. So that application has been approved. Further ado, we'll hand over to David Grant again to present agenda item 10 to provide an update on F/YR250730. Again, it's a PIP and the relevant statutory duties. So again, David, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 10 again is another PIP. This application seeks permission in principle for up to 2 dwellings on land north of the quadrant, Primrose Hill, Doddington. This application was previously determined for approval at the Planning Committee of Wednesday, the 4th of February, following a committee overturn. However, following the committee's resolution, an interested third party wrote to the Council on the 20th of February 2026. The correspondence alleged, amongst other matters, that the decision was based on material errors of fact, a misunderstanding of the planning policy context, and an unlawful approach to the assessment of development in the open countryside. Slide 2 shows the location plan. The site is located in the open countryside in an elsewhere location. This location is isolated in planning terms and a significant distance from the built-up settlement of Doddington. The application site lies within flood zones 1, 2 and 3, with the rear half of the site in flood zones 2 and 3. The site is physically detached from the built form of Doddington by a distance of approximately 0.6 miles by road. Slide 4 shows the photos. Photo 1 shows a view of the site to the west along Dykemore Drove, which is a poorly maintained road. Photo 2 shows a view looking east with the junction of Dykemore Drove beyond. Photo 3 shows the agricultural land on which the dwellings are proposed, with an established row of trees along the site frontage. Commercial buildings are located further beyond. Photo 4 shows a view looking north with a drain located behind the established line of trees. Kindly note the open countryside, elsewhere isolated location. In summary, this application seeks permission in principle for the development of 2 dwellings north of the quadrant, Primrose Hill, Doddington, outside the development footprint of Doddington. The principle of development is not supported as the site does not adjoin the built form, and there is no planning justification for dwellings in this location. The application site constitutes an area of land located outside the development footprint of Doddington. development of this site would result in an unacceptable urbanisation, extending development into the countryside. It would likely set a precedent for future development, further eroding the character of the area and the open countryside. The development proposal will be in an elsewhere location, contrary to policies LP3 and LP12 of the Fenland Local Plan 2014. And as such, any residential development on this site will be contrary to the above policy considerations. And thus, in terms of location and use, the planning in principle application fails. Policy LP14 Part B of the local plan requires development in flood zone 3 to undergo a sequential test to demonstrate that the development cannot be delivered elsewhere in areas at lower risk of flooding. Policy LP2 seeks to deliver high quality environments, ensuring that people are not put at identified risks from development, thereby avoiding adverse impacts in the interests of health and well-being. The site lies in flood zone 3, which is a high risk flood area. The applicant failed to undertake a substantive and evidence sequential test and therefore failed to demonstrate that the development could not be delivered in an area of lower flood risk. Consequently, the proposal fails to satisfy policies LP14 and LP2 of the Fenland Local Plan, and thus the recommendation is one of refusal.
Thank you, David. Once again, of course, as I mentioned earlier, there's no speakers, so members, questions, clarifications to officers once again. Different application, one has to say, but anybody wants to kick this off? Councillor Benny.
Mr. Chairman, we're 100 metres away from where the previous one was, and every argument used for and against will be the same on this one as it is on the other one. We could be here till 8 o'clock at night and order pizzas and have a bit of coffee, or we could wrap this up fairly quickly, because I don't think that the members or the officers are going to change their stance on this. It's 100 metres away. The principle and the arguments are both the same. We can use the same arguments and justifications both ways, and all we're going to do is go round and round in circles, and it serves no purpose whatsoever. I think the reasoning and the debate could be just overlaid onto this one, what was on the previous one.
So, thank you for that. My preference is sooner than later, and if my feelings are, most of it was said on the last debate, and of course I want to be I'm the last one who wants to stifle debate, but I think probably enough has been said on the last one. I will take it, Councillor Marks, but I think it needs to be shorter than previously.
Very, very quickly. Totally agree with Councillor Benny. I think Councillor French is looking totally nonplussed by it as well. The only thing I would say, the only difference on this site is that the entrance stroke exit is on a roadside, a smaller lane roadside as opposed onto a main road. Apart from that, I see no difference in this application whatsoever. And as again, I would happily go with my previous comments.
We're going to finish the debate now. Nobody? What do you want to say?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. So, it's proposal time again, folks. Invite members to make a proposal. If this proposal against officer recommendation, you'll have to provide a policy reason for doing so. So I'm looking. Do I have a proposal to go with officer recommendation in the first instance? It has to be done. To refuse planning permission. It has to be done. I can see where there is none. So I'm looking for a different proposal, Councillor Marks, and the reasons for doing so.
Chair, I think if we could say, could we please use the same reasoning again on all of them? Stephen seemed to take them down, has not sort of said anything against, so that includes the flood risking as well.
I'm just going to, I'll take that as Stephen.
Sorry, can I just say, it doesn't mean I agreed with your conclusions. We've made a note of your reasons on the last, if members are saying they wish to apply the same reasoning to the approval, proposed approval, then we've all made a note of that, so you don't need to.
Yes, I think that's what is suggested.
After the vote's been taken, can I just ask one question at the end, please? After the vote has been taken.
Okay, so I've got a proposal here to go against officer recommendation, proposed by Councillor Marks. Can I have a seconder? Anybody else? Oh, Councillor French is going to second it. I'm happy with the reasons, as I was in the previous application. Can I have a show of hands on that? That application has been approved. Councillor Marks, now your question before I carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask how quickly now, as we've had this in front of us now twice, how quickly now the decision notice will be issued, because I don't want this dragging on and then suddenly we're back here for a third time. I think we've made our decision. I don't want to waste any more time on this application by it coming back again and again. So my question is to Head of Planning: how quickly now can the decision notice please be given?
Was the business on Friday?
Quite possibly it'll be done with due process. It won't be.
So we can do that, can't we?
Yes, no conditions. So
no.
It should
So
be fine.
so.
Provide subject to uniform not going down or something. Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Yeah, but could we have a copy of the decision notice, please?
Can we put you in charge of FIFA, Charlie? Because we win the World Cup every year now.
We have got an agenda number 11. Just to make members aware, I need to make this statement, and there will be no discussion or debate after I've said what I've got to say, and I will start now. I want to make the following statement before the end of the meeting. Members of the Planning Committee are fully aware of the national scheme of delegation that is being introduced by the government, and this will have a significant impact on the nature and the number of planning applications that will be brought before this planning committee, or any other planning committee for that matter. Currently, the council is looking into the flexibility within the national scheme of delegation. Councillor Marks, myself, the Head of Planning, Councillor Laws, and Mrs. Pilson was there 3 weeks ago, and they are looking into it. So I can assure members this is an ongoing situation. Alongside this, due to a number of unreasonably long meetings, and I think we'll all agree to that, the portfolio holder and the Head of Planning and I, with the members' agreement, agreed a cap. We said, probably not all members, 6 items per agenda. However, it's accepted that this is impact upon the ability to effectively determine planning applications in a timely manner. Therefore, it's been agreed that the 3 of us will revisit this figure to ensure a greater number of applications can be brought before planning committee without having a detrimental impact on the planning officers. So update will be given to members accordingly very shortly. My feelings are, and I've spoken to Councillor Laws this afternoon, and my view is for the next foreseeable future, until the new statutory government reorganisation takes place, we could do 10. And if officers have got time, we can fit in another meeting or 2 in between, but it depends on officers' workload. So has anybody got, I'm just going to say, I'm not having any debate. Is anybody happy with the figure 10? Can we just have a show of hands so I'm not the bad guy? Okay, so thank you very much. That concludes today's meeting at 4:15. Thank you very much.